let's just get this over with. So, Bushiroad has given us more Rotovisor cards. Yippee! Oh boy, I can't wait to read these. I bet these are totally not going to ruin my entire day. Okay, starting off, grade 1. Are you serious? Kvar... Sharpshooter, it's Sharpster. I don't care. These cards are terrible. Auto, and this unit is placed on rearguard. If you have a Great Theory Greater Vanguard, the Rotovisor on its card name, choose one of your other units, and it gets power plus 5k until end of turn. Honestly, boys, we're at the point where, like, we literally just take what we can get. Like, I'll take it. Honestly, I'll take it. Something that lets us, you know, hit some semblance of a number to actually deal damage to let our on-hits hit. Fine. I'll take it. And then auto, and this unit is placed on Guardian Circle. If you have a Great Theory Greater Vanguard with Rotovisor in its card name, and your order zone is 2 or more arenas, cost Energy Blast 2, and this unit gets shield plus 10k until end of battle. How do they keep doing it? How does Bushy keep making cards that just don't work, okay? So, like, on paper, right, on paper, you have a grade 1 that you place it, you give something 5k so you can hit numbers. Cool. And then it works defensively. You get the energy when you hit, and you can guard with it, so it's 15. So you have extra triggers in your deck, so you get to stay alive, so you get more options for, like, offense to make more attacks, right? Right? It's such a good idea in theory. Too bad it doesn't work at all. Okay, first off, like, the on-place Disling 5 is fine. It's great. But then it has a when placed on Guardian Circle ability, so that means you have to pick whichever one you're going to use. You can't use both. You don't have a way to intercept from the back row, as far as I know. We can maybe play, like, the stupid Lemonade Man order, but, like, that's an extra order we have to play. We have to go find it, and this guy specifically works off of arenas, so the bleachers don't work at all. So we have to either play him to give our board 5, or use him to guard. Okay, well, I'd probably rather use it to guard, because the deck has no way to stay alive whatsoever. You end up exploding most of the time, so I'll take the 15k shield any day. The problem, though, is it's Energy Blast 2! We've already been over, we don't have energy! You're not, like, the thing we gotta realize about Rotovisor is you're not hitting. Rotovisor is not hitting ever. You're not getting the energy charge 2 off of the arena. You're never getting it. So you're not gonna have the energy blast to use on this guy to get shield. 90% of the time, you're going to be just calling this guy to give something 5 so you can maybe possibly hit a number. I'll get into why this guy's really terrible in a second, though. First, we gotta talk about the next card. We got Ketensage Lafia. At this point, I should just learn how to read Katakana. So it's double rare. Oh boy, that means it might have a skill that's relevant. First up, a continuous on Rearguard or Guardian Circle. If your order zone is 2 or more arenas, this unit gets power plus 5k and shield plus 5k. That's pretty good. I'll take a static 15. Like, it's better than nothing. I'll take it. I can intercept for 10. That's cool, I guess. Sure. And then act drop. If you have a Great Theory Greater Vanguard with Rotovisor in its card name, and you do not have a Rearguard with the same card name as this card, cost Energy Blast 2 and rest in arena from order zone. Okay, and call this card the Rearguard. Great. Okay. So Bushiroad has correctly identified a problem, a huge problem with Rotovisor, in that it cannot build a board. Rotovisor has no way to plus cards. If your opponent blows up your initial board, there's nothing you can do. It's game over. You have no way to build it back. Rotovisor does a terrible job actually building the board that it's supposed to attack with. So this is kind of nice, where I guess if they out your board, right, we'll do what we did with the last card. In theory, this card's great, because if they somehow out your board, you can just pay some energy, rest in arena, to call this back, to build your board back up, or even the main way you're supposed to use is you're supposed to intercept with it for 10k to stay alive, and then just bring it back on the next turn. That's really cool. That's great. Problem, though, like all of the Rotovisor cards ever printed, they always are printed with the assumption that your on-hits are hitting. Newsflash, guys! No one is ever going to let an on-hit hit until the day they die, or they have no cards in hand. We've known this for like a literal decade now, that what makes on-hits, like, good is kind of the fact that they don't hit. The reason it's called on-hit pressure is that there is pressure that if you let this card hit, you will suffer the consequences. Therefore, you are incentivized to guard it. This is why on-hits on rears were always somewhat neat, because your opponent wants to automatically guard the Vanguard, because that's where the most pressure and threat's coming from, so they want to dedicate a lot of shield to it, and maybe take some of the rears because they can guarantee that those might not have triggers on them. They can pick and choose which ones do and which ones don't. The thing with on-hits is, now your opponent has to make a choice. Do they want to try to guard your Vanguard and your rearguard with the on-hit, or maybe they take the on-hit because they need to guard your Vanguard, or maybe they really can't let this on-hit hit, so they have to then use shield on the rearguard, and therefore it might be open to taking a Vanguard swing that could have a potential critical on it. What made a good on-hit was in effect that if it did hit, gave you some really good advantage, but you were also perfectly fine never hitting. This deck is the exact opposite. Every single Rotovisor card we ever get is printed with the, like, assumption that all of our on-hits are just gonna hit. But all of the Rotovisor effects that we're getting are all defensive effects. These all get shield, so you're to assume that it's so you can buy yourself extra turns to give you more chance to get your on-hits off. But if you need to get on-hits to proc your defensive skills, well, that's kind of irrelevant, because if your on-hits are hitting, that means you're dealing damage, and then your opponent's dead. You don't have to guard if your opponent's dead. It's just so backwards that all of these cards are, hey, we get shield if you kill your opponent, but if I kill kill my opponent, there's nothing to guard because my opponent died. So, like, I appreciate the idea of printing defensive pieces for Rotovisor because the deck really struggles to do anything, but when you lock those defensive pieces behind a wall of, well, you have to already be doing the thing, and that thing is dealing damage, which, you know, wins you the game, what do I need defensive pieces for? At least the grade 2 gets the shield semi-passively, so I can just use it as a 10k interceptor, but if I want to ever build a board, I have to dedicate energy resources that I've already used to the one card that pluses me in any way, or the thing that makes our Vanguard cost quote-unquote better, but in reality, it makes it 10 times worse. Honestly, at this point, we are just back to paying CB2 for Glanzel. The best thing that this grade 2 does is it kicks out the stupid grade 3 so we can finally play a card with shield and spend the energy on something maybe a little more relevant. So, thanks for printing the grade 3, Bushiroad. This card was absolutely useless. Like, at this point, let's be real. The Rotovisor cards have to be a joke, right? These are a joke made specifically for me and me alone, because I don't understand how you can fathom the idea of, let's give this card shield plus 10,000 under the caveat that you dealt damage last turn. How does that make any sense? You want to get shield because you couldn't kill your opponent on the previous turn, and now you need to survive this one to try to kill them on the next turn. But this card only gets a 10k shield if you dealt them a damage. And of course, not only if you dealt them a damage, you can bank energy in other ways, but for some reason, we have 8 billion cards that want to energy blast, and no way to get energy outside of the start of our turn and, you know, killing our opponent. It's honestly really unfortunate to see any sort of Rotovisor support in any capacity because the deck is flawed from the beginning. Like, it's cooked from the start. Any deck built around on-hits isn't going to succeed, and not even just built around on-hits. It's about selectively giving specific units on-hits, which is even worse, because your opponent just guards the cards that have on-hits on them and takes the rest. It'd be different if it was, like, global on-hit, every card on your board got this effect, and now your opponent kind of does have to pick and choose when they're going to give you the on-hit and when they're not, but now it's just, no! You have a limited resource bank of on-hits, right? You have, like, 3 to 4 on-hits you can give. Well, they just guard those and take the rest of the attacks. Like, what are these supposed to do? What is this deck supposed to do? I don't understand. What is the point? What is the plan? What? I'm like, all right, let's support it. Let's support it. Let's give it support. Let's give it support. Okay, so we're already going to assume that all of our on-hits are always hitting, which means, A, we've already won the game by this point, so the rest of the effect is relevant. But let's just pretend, or let's pretend we're playing premium, and we somehow have access to energy, and our opponent's playing the stupid Tooth Angel Feather Girl, and now can take like 8 billion damage, right, before they die. All right, cool, great. So all of our on-hits are hitting, we're getting all this energy. Now we get what? 15k shield? Sick. Great. Thanks, Bushy. We get 15k shield so we can survive to our next turn to do what? Swing for like 28? What? Like the grade 3 gives us 5. We get Persona, that's 15. We then somehow call the grade 1 we just guarded with for an extra 5. Maybe we have this grade 2 that gets 5. That's what? Maybe like 35 at most? Oh boy, hope we hit some triggers or something. I don't know. Like, how are we winning the game? How are we winning games? How do they think? Like, it's not even enough they're assuming that we're always dealing damage to get defensive skills, but they're assuming we're also always dealing damage by swinging for like 25. What is 25 ever going to hit anyone? I'm supposed to be working on the friggin' rotation response video right now, but I'm too busy yapping about gosh dang Rotovisor for the umpteenth time. When is it gonna end? When is Witchy gonna stop doing this to me? I don't understand. Let me go. I know everyone complains about decks not getting support, but for the first time ever, please just let it go. Stop giving us Rotovisor cards. We don't need them. All it does is hurt my soul. Until you give the deck a completely different mechanic in every way, shape, and form, it'll never be functional, so please, Bushiroad, just free me from my suffering, please. Please do not give me a single more Rotovisor card. I'm actually going to lose my mind. But I can only yap about Rotovisor too much. TLDR, these cards are terrible. What a surprise. They're just terrible in a new, fun way that we never even expected, in that they're defensive cards that only work if you win the game, so rationalize that one with yourself however you will. I gotta go get back to working on the rotation response video. It's coming along very well. That should be out by the end of the week. I was supposed to be working on it today, but I got derailed by this, so, you know, I'll leave a like and, you know, subscribe and stuff, and, I don't know, follow me on Twitter so I can complain about this more. I don't know, whatever. Have a good day. Please, Bushiroad, never print a single Rotovisor card ever again. I beg of you.